Hello everyone, this is Bill Griffin. Welcome to the Different Take Podcast. If you like this content, please subscribe, like, and share. Really appreciate you watching. Today I want to talk about something recent news. As of today, April 5th, Tuesday. News yesterday, April 4th, Monday, Elon Musk discloses that he owns 9.2% of Twitter. The stock jumped $10. It was also announced this morning, that he has been named to the board of directors. And being board of directors, his equity position, I think, is limited around 14% or something. But there's some sort of limit if he's on the board that he can't own more than a specified amount. And the stock jumped another $5. So I think it's gone from something like $35 around there to $53 since Friday. So in less than 10 hours of trading, well, you count the weekend or whatnot, but the massive amount of trading is done during a period of about 10 hours, and that's what's happened to the company. He issued a tweet, which I'll read. Given that Twitter serves as the de facto public town square, failing to adhere to free speech principles fundamentally undermines democracy. What should be done? This was posted on March 26th. He also posted March 25th. Free speech is essential to a functioning democracy. Do you believe Twitter rigorously adheres to this principle? Elon Musk, in this tweet, is clear, these two tweets, in these statements, it's clear that he does not think that Twitter adheres to this principle. So what does he mean by free speech? I think he is referring to what is protected free speech under our Constitution. So there's a difference between protected and unprotected free speech. And I've done an episode on this and went over this. There's clear distinctions between what is protected and what isn't protected. In response to this tweet, there were tweets from people who clearly disagree with Elon Musk. So I want to go through a few of them. I think some of them are quite, I find them kind of interesting, but also sort of humorous. So here's the first one. This is from Zitters Rue Furry. Quote, "You don't seem to get what free speech is about. Let remind you that it's not about social media platforms allowing things like racism, homophobia, transphobia, and misinformation about public health concerns like vaccines to go unchecked. Those aren't okay things, Elon." I've got bad news for you, Zitters Rue Furry. They are okay things. Under the First Amendment, the Supreme Court has ruled over and over again that these things that you say are not protected are protected. And they fall into that category. So Zitters Rue Furry is clearly on the side that we should restrict speech that he doesn't like. Next tweet. From Zephyr Rock 3T. With much speech shifting to online discussion, perhaps the government could have its own free speech platform, in parentheses, free and no ads and no data mining for profit, in parentheses, Twitter being a private company, non-gov, Gov. If you get banned, that's not necessarily a free speech violation. Zephyr Rock 3T. There's two things you're proposing here. One is that the government have its own free speech platform. Yeah, that would really work. There wouldn't be any censorship. There wouldn't be issues with it actually working. So nobody would use this platform, your fantasy platform you're talking about. No government entity would step in and censor anything. The second sentence, he says, to get banned, that's not necessarily a free speech violation. That is depends on what your definition of free speech is. If you're talking about what the Supreme Court has ruled as or protected free speech, yes, that is a free speech violation. The company may be able to legally do this, but if you're trying to adhere to the principles of protected free speech, yes, you get banned. That is, unless you're engaging in unprotected free speech, it is a violation. Next tweet is from Sarcasmo Murica. Apparently, what should be done if you own half the dollars in the world is go out and buy a 9.2% stake in Twitter like you just did. The better to bully the company into defining free speech the way you want it to. Interesting. Sarcasmo, it depends again on what you define free speech. I suspect if we go by your definition, you would not allow political speech that you were in favor of. It's interesting that he uses the word bully the company into defining free speech the way you want it to, because I think it's clear that Elon Musk is referring to the defining free speech the way our government or our Constitution and the Supreme Court over hundreds of years now have defined what is protected free speech. So I think what Elon Musk, again, is referring to is protected free speech under the Constitution, not the way, and that is the way he wants it to be defined, and that is the way millions and millions of people want it to be defined. And Sarcasmo, you look you don't look like a young guy if that is your photo, and you think you would know better. Do you not remember 40, 50 years ago that you were an outlier because you wanted to censor speech? 40, 50 years ago, censorship was primarily, when we talked about censorship, it was often used in television. There are only 3 networks, so they're very sensitive about obscenity. So there was a lot of cases that went through the Supreme Court that dealt with not only, aside from what was on television, but things such as pornography. That's not the case now. We're strictly, when we talk about censorship, we're really talking about political speech. And the next tweet is from David Schwartz. So, you want a platform like Twitter, but filled with people yelling the N-word, sharing detailed rape fantasies, and posting pictures of their toilets before they're flushed. David Schwartz. I think you can find those things. I suspect you can find them on Twitter. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure you can find them across the interwebs on lots of different platforms. So I don't really get your point. As I said before, we're talking about obscenity is not protected free speech, and that is what he's referring to. If you go by what I believe Elon Musk's definition is, and I think he's been pretty clear about this, protected free speech would not include these issues that you're talking about, except for maybe the first one. I think that is, or first and second, first one anyway. The next tweet is from David Weissman. He says, violating the terms of services of a social media platform is not a form of censorship. Every private company has a right to what they allow on their platform. Okay, first of all, yes, David, it is a form of censorship. The censorship is suppressing speech. The company suppresses speech, therefore they censor, therefore it is a form of censorship. I don't understand why you wrote that sentence. It makes 0 sense. The second sentence, every private company has a right to what they allow on their platform. Yes, and one of the problems, or one of the things that people don't, I think a lot of people don't understand, is that Section 230 allows them to post any protected free speech, but they choose not to. They choose to censor. So he doesn't, clearly a fan of censorship. clearly. So he's not in favor of free speech, as I or Elon Musk would define it. The next tweet is from Hubris. Is free speech necessary for a functioning democracy? This should also be in a poll without deliberation on this. We can't decide whether free speech should be allowed in the public town square. There can be free speech in most places, but maybe not in places where it misleads many. Okay, Hubris. The answer to your first question is yes. It is necessary. That is what many people still believe. This was not an issue, as I said, for many years. It's a recent thing where speech is trying to be, political speech particular, is trying to be suppressed. The last question, or last sentence that he makes, there can be free speech in most places, but maybe not in places where it misleads many. Who decides what is misleading information? Who defines this? How is it defined? Surely we don't want you to do that because you are anti-free speech. You'd be in favor of suppressing political speech because you just said that. The next tweet. This is from Interforty Studio. Also, maybe politicians should not tweet or use Twitter as a platform for politics. And if they do, they in specific are subjected to fact checking like any accredited news source. Okay, Interforty Studio, the first sentence there, politicians should not tweet or use Twitter as a platform. Okay, you would include elected officials, candidates. There are a lot of them in the United States. Their surrogates, their supporters, would you suppress them? Who would be left? So I don't know when you use the word politician, what you're referring to. If a politician, someone who's a candidate for office, were prevented from using Twitter for a platform, don't you think they would use other people to speak for them if the government actually did this? Why wouldn't we want to hear directly from politicians? And what is so special about Twitter? Why would you want to remove Twitter from this? And only Twitter is where politicians can't tweet. I suspect it's because you really just don't like Donald Trump. That's what I suspect. The second sentence. What is an accredited news source? Is there such a thing? Who would do the accreditation? Who would decide which news sources are accredited? Sounds like you're for censorship and you are anti-free speech all the way. The next one. This is from Janice Fredericks. And I notice she has some virtue signaling there with the Ukrainian flag. Her tweet goes as follows. Stop confusing Twitter, a private company, with the U.S. government. 2, have someone explain the difference to you. 3, stop invoking the First Amendment every time a private company enforces Twitter's terms of service. You're not forced to join. You agreed to the rules. Okay, Janice. I think Elon Musk knows the difference between Twitter and the United States government, and I doubt he really needs anyone to explain the difference to him. The idea that you would say, well, the company is violating the spirit of the First Amendment when they censor people. I don't understand what's wrong with making that complaint. What you're saying, Janice, is you can go in a restaurant and you can eat the food, and if it makes you sick, you've got no right to complain. That's kind of the analogy there. So that's pretty, Janice, I'm sorry, that's a really dumb tweet. The next one. This is from Lady Integrity R. Come from a Ukrainian background. There's a limit to free speech when it involves hate and encouraging others to commit violence. Hate is not the answer in our world. We were all created by one creator, and we need to be caring of other people, not be hating and wanting violence. Okay, Lady Integrity are the last two sentences. I mean, nobody would really argue with you on that. But let's go to the first two sentences, in particular the second one. You come from a Ukrainian background. I'm not sure why you mentioned that. Are you trying to imply that Ukraine is a bastion of free speech? I don't think you're trying to do that, but maybe you are. The second sentence, there's limited free speech when it involves hate. No, there isn't. That is protected free speech in our country. Encouraging others to commit violence. Inciting violence is not protected under the Constitution. You can't do that. That is not allowed. The last tweet that I have for you, this is from Steve Tierney. Does a Tesla boycott loom in our future? This is probably my favorite tweet. It was interesting that not only did Twitter's stock get a bump, and I don't know if there's a correlation, but Tesla's stock has also gone up something like $70, $80 from since Friday. It was 1,077. It's up to 1,145. So not only did Twitter get a bump, but Tesla's stock got a bump. I don't think there's a correlation, but clearly investors do not think that there will be any damage done to their company. 2021, they netted $5.5 billion on something 53 billion in sales or something, and Ford has tripled those sales. So Tesla's quite a profitable company. I understand there's a waiting list to get vehicles, very popular vehicles. People that have them love them. But here's the thing, Steve. Here's the thing you're missing is maybe this would actually help the reputation of the company for their CEO to be on the leading edge of protecting First Amendment rights in America. Steve, you clearly you're not a proponent of free speech. You want to restrict speech. You want to censor political speech. Otherwise, you would not ask such a silly question. Because why would you want to, why would anybody boycott someone from simply asking the question? Do you believe Twitter rigorously adheres to the principle of free speech in making the statement that free speech is essential to a functioning democracy? Steve, you would really boycott and think that would be a good idea and effective. It would actually work. That is amazing. So, the purpose of going through these tweets show there's a great deal of sentiment that want to restrict political speech that they don't agree with, because Twitter has obviously done this. Otherwise, they wouldn't have this great sympathy for this. I could rail on and on about how great our country is become, how prosperous it's become, and one of the reasons is because we allow free discourse politically. You can ridicule, make fun of your leaders, and you're not thrown in jail for it, like you would be in many countries. And we don't, the idea that you would legislate hate speech opens the door, as you've seen in Canada where they do this, to protecting the leaders, the political leaders in the country, and insulating them from criticism. And you can see by these tweets that there's a great deal of sentiment that is against that. So I think it looks like the company Twitter is going to make a bit of a turn. Elon Musk tweeted today that he looks forward to working with the board to improving the company in the next few months. The interesting thing is with Elon Musk, I understand he's the wealthiest person in the world. Those kind of things, when you hear that fluctuates so much. But he's an extremely wealthy individual, and the amount of money that he's put, amount of his fortune, as I understand it, is not significant. It appears that this will be good for free speech, protecting the rights of people to express their opinions politically on Twitter. So we'll see where this goes. That's my episode for today. I really appreciate you watching. Check out our new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. Please like, subscribe, share, and I appreciate your comments. And thank you for watching.